rank icons here most to least favorite. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, because the icons aren't really characters. Hmm. This is tough. I gotta give Odin S tier. Or not S tier, but I think he's my favorite because ever since they released the designs of these icons, like I just find Odin so freaking cool. He's just the coolest. I like Ramu conceptually, but like these designs are so good. Ramu doesn't really uh click with me in the same way the others do. Like Ifrit and Shiva are gonna be up pretty high. Bahamut, Phoenix, Garuda is pretty freaking cool. God, they're all so cool. It's so hard to say like which one's my favorite. I find like Garuda's design is so good. They're all so good. Um, it's kind of tough. Like Ramu and Shiva, Ramu could probably be higher up on my list, honestly, if got to see him in action. But you see him float there and shoot a lightning bolt. You don't get to see Ramu do much. Um, Shiva doesn't get to do a lot either, but her character's design is just so fucking peak. Yeah, this is not a definitive rank right here. I don't think. Okay, so I think I gotta give Clive a bit of an A tier. I think he's just shy of S tier because like he has a lot of conflict. He has like a lot of like I think he's a solid character, but I feel like he's missing something that would make him a fully fleshed out character. He's missing something. It's hard to really put my finger on it. He's almost too good, you know? He's maybe if we had seen like maybe if the 13 years made him more jaded, and then we saw him make his way back up to like good boy status, if that makes sense. Because he's kind of just always doing the right thing. I don't if that makes sense. Oh, need that. Joshua is a little underdeveloped. I mean, not so much. He just doesn't have much screen time to really flesh out. Jill, it's kind of the same. She does have. She's. I think okay. I'll put her in B, just because I personally really like her. I know a lot of people have to say she's like underdeveloped, and that's true for the most part. I feel like there could have been a little more for her. Maybe if she was present during the finale of the game or made some like a bigger impact as Shiva or something, she could have made like A tier. But as of right now, who knows? Maybe the DLC um, will flesh out Joshua and Jill a little more. I'm crossing my fingers that Jill and Joshua um, help Clive fight Leviathan or whatever battle. Because I feel like the Leviathan boss fight's got to happen in the middle of the DLC, so we get to play around with Leviathan's abilities and fight a true boss at the end of the DLC. So either during the Leviathan fight or some fight at the end, I really hope that like Phoenix and Shiva are present for that fight. At least Shiva. For the love of God, please. I keep grabbing my controller instead of the mouse. Torgal, S tier. He's a good boy. He's the bestest of boys. Um, Sid, I think is A tier. He's just such a cool character. Everything about him is great. It's a shame he died so early. I'm surprised how early a lot of these characters died. I kind of thought like all of the dominance would be present until near the end of the game, and then they would just start dropping like flies, or I thought they would all team up at the end of the game. I had a lot of theories and ideas on how that would work, but they're like more like the villain of the week, and they get checked off the list as you go through the game, which I think kind of takes something away from the story. I think these characters could have been all fleshed out more. Prince Dion, He's almost he's lacking a little. He's lacking development compared to like Joshua and Jill. I think he's a solid C tier. He's a good character. Um, he's not. He's B. He's probably like bottom of the B tier. Let's just go with that. Um, if I make this list, let's say this list is in order, right? So Joshua, then Jill, then Dion. Um, these two are a little tied, a little bit tied. Come on, there. Hugo Kupka. I like him. Just he's a very intimidating like figure, and he commands every room he's in. It's definitely not. Mm, but his motivation is just like he wants to rule the world, um, and like Benedicta is just a part of that, a piece of that. I don't know if these. I'll put them in C tier for now. I'll have to think about it. And Benedicta is just so fucking hot. I I don't think I could put her any lower than C. She's such a baddie. You know what? She's a B for a baddie, dude. She just that alone. She's just I want her step on me. No, but seriously, I want her to embrace me with what's the move called? Garuda's embrace. I forget what it's called, but you know, mid. She's D tier. I mean, she's fine. She's really spunky, but there's not a lot more going on there. I'll think about this. Vivian Ninetails is pretty cool. She doesn't do much in the overall scheme of the story, but I think like she's got really good character design. She's got a really good voice. I like that she kind of narrates those scenes. I'm like, well, oh, this is what you were getting kept up on, and I like it. I like her. This Self-Fair, I mean, I kind of like that he's not a very intimidating figure. So when he takes out Kupka in one hit, it's like, whoa, what's going on with this guy? But then and then you just find out he's just like one of Odin's blades personified, which is kind of cool, you know. You think it might be kind of weird at first, but then you realize Benedicta can make avatars that she calls sisters, you know. Why can't Odin do something similar? Not super fleshed out. This king guy, I'll keep him in D for now. Above these two, I think. He's a cool character. We only ever see him in cutscenes. Clive never speaks to him, so we don't really have that sort of connection with him in the story. Like we can't relate to like Clive's issue. Like he hates the Empire, but he doesn't. There's no personal stakes against like the king or the emperor. Gav is like B tier above these guys for sure. Elwyn, I mean, so I'm gonna put Elwyn here, because he's just a good dad, and he speaks very highly of Clive, for good reason, and I think he's just a good guy. He wanted to end slavery, which is pretty cool. Uncle Byron, I like Uncle Byron. He's definitely B. I think I like him more than Gav. He's just a fun character. Gav gets like more screen time and more development. But Uncle Byron's fun. I like Uncle Byron. Annabella. She's like she's like the most evil character ever. One of the most evil characters ever. But also like her motivations are like whack, and she has like this monologue near the end where she's like, yabbering on about like her justifications and about bloodlines and keeping power, something hierarchy, blah blah blah. It's like why do you care though? I don't understand why you give a fuck. Is it like like just incest brain, like from fucking your cousins, like inbred, like because like it turns out that they do fuck each other. I think I read somewhere Annabella and Elwyn are cousins. They keep it in the family because they want to keep the Phoenix in the family, in the royal bloodline. So cousins. They don't tell you that in the story. Barnabas. Barnabas is pretty good. I put him maybe high C tier for now. He's definitely above Benedicta and Dion and maybe Gav. I put him here because I think he's I think he's a pretty decent foil for Clive because they are both creations of Ultima, but Barnabas is like the perfect slave. He's the perfect obedient creation. He is everything Ultima wants Clive to be. I don't like how Clive, like Odin, like Barnabas is so powerful. He smashes Clive and Jill with ease, right? But with ease. But then like after he gets Eva's power, it just came off a little too easy. Like he took him out a little too easy. But I also like that. So he's basically given up on his self, on being a person, but Clive makes him feel alive again, which I think is really interesting. And then he really starts to break at the end. I think he's a good character. He's lacking in some areas, but I think overall, yeah, I think he's a good foil for Clive. Ultima. Ultima is really interesting. Okay? Ultima isn't necessarily like a character. He's like a robot. He's this calculated, soulless, unfeeling menace on society, on humanity. And it's only when he's faced with his mortality that he actually starts to break through, and you can see this sad, scared creature underneath. He is everything Clive is not, and I think he's a good villain for this story. Not necessarily like a high tier villain or a high tier character, but for this story in particular, contrasted with Clive, I think he's a great villain. Because Clive is everything he is not. And I think that actually lifts Ultima up for me. To at least B tier. At least. Torgal, unironically the best character in the game. He is the bestest of boys. Even after 13 years, he's stuck with Clive. Personally, I think Clive should have reunited with Torgal at some point during like the 13 years, because it's really weird that like they just sort of reestablished this like bond after 13 years, like nothing ever happened. I find it very silly, and I think Torgal should have been there with Clive in the beginning of the game, and then they could have gotten separated, because maybe the argument is like, oh, we can't have Torgal during the Jill boss fight because Torgal wouldn't fight Jill, but Torgal wouldn't have to be there for that part. They could have got separated, and then let's say before Clive like kills Jill, Torgal shows up and is like, no, And then he sees Jill's face and the tear, and he's like, oh, and they're like, so there's two cliques, Torgal, then Jill. And then we want to have this sort of awkward reunion between Clive and Torgal, right? That seems really silly to me. But he cares about Jill, Joshua, and Clive. He's there for everybody, and he is the goodest, bestest of boy, and he will comfort Jill in her time of sadness post-game, post-story. And he's also Fenrir, the summon, which is really, really, really cool. So yes, this is my Final Fantasy XVI character tier list. It's pretty good. Woohoo!